Come on. Come on. What's going on over here? Come on. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Are you
Alright,
shitting me?
that done.
Holy
Why
fucking...
does my head look so small?
My head looks small. You know, did you ever watch our videos? I'm a mini person in the corner. You're a... Oh, you're Hulk.
I
And
know
I'm
what?
just sitting in your armpit. I'm living in your armpit. That's what I'm doing. That's what I wanted to
Oh,
do with
good.
Zoom. I thought if we could get Zoom to work, we would be side by side. And I thought both of us would kind of cuddle up to one side of the screen, right? And then I could cut out uh, an even thing. But as it is, I'm living in your armpit. I'm sorry. I can't get frickin' Zoom to work. For some reason, it was waiting for the host to accept it, but the host was my
Yeah.
phone. So I realized that I'm like, oh shit. So I opened Zoom on my phone to accept as the host, and then three of us were in the conversation, right? But one of them kept
Right.
echoing in my ears, so I couldn't hear far at all. Anyways, it was annoying as hell. I could, unless I took my phone all the way to the other room, maybe it could be the host, but then the two of us would be kind of miniature on the top. Oh, it was a pain in the butt. Anyways, so
Yeah, okay, so I see
holy
how you
hell.
have it set up. I just look at the thing that, yeah, of this big thing. And
But then do you remember like when we talked back in the day with Sean and he said, you know what? We have to learn these softwares to be able to
yeah,
cut videos and put them here. And then you put another video here. He always wanted to do things live, 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 which is even harder, which is next level difficulty. But I always
yeah.
thought, no, 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 I can do things. We have Facebook Live. You and I are just beside each other, exactly what I wanted. I don't have to edit anything. I just have to record on Facebook Live. And then they
Right.
stopped doing that. All they do now is Messenger, and you can't record it unless you have.
And,
Fuck, I better make
and
sure
yet,
my.
yeah, that's the screen capture thing.
It says it's going. Yeah, it's going. Because that's a pain in the bars as
Uh,
well. That screen capture thing. One time I lost it.
yeah.
I'm not even recording a second
Well,
audio, but
and
I'm
then
being 10 for 10 on this right now. So
if you don't maximize it on your computer screen, you're capturing everything your computer's looking at. So you should maximize it. You
well,
know.
it's weird that what it does is it actually cuts off this. And I tried to do that once, and everything was shifted to the right. And then I
Yeah.
realized no matter what the settings I put on, and maybe it's because it's a freaking cheap technology, it cuts off about 75 or 25% of the screen. No, 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 no. 15 to 20% of the screen on one side. And so then I think like, oh fuck, what do I got to do? I've got to at least resize us. And the way we're sitting right now, like I can, well, I don't know, I can't even measure it, but I mean, like I can resize us so at least my toolbar is not in the thing, my scroll bar isn't there,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
header bar isn't there because like I look on the other screen and we're just about maximum. Anyways, maybe I'm dumb and I don't know how to change that, but it's called OBS 26.1.0. Anyways, it records what I want it to record, but it's pretty basic and I can't figure out how to expand the thing to full
The
screen.
problem,
There's got to
this
be
is
a
the
way
problem with
people
too
do
many
it.
idiots
I
looking at
know.
technology.
This
The problem
works.
with too many idiots watching trying to operate technology.
I'm trying to. This is the simplest schmimplest. It's like, okay, maybe there's parameters in the goddamn software that means that I can do this, but I tried for like a while. I'm old to try
Yeah,
and
so
see
am I.
how could I capture the full screen because I cut off. I cut off one time, which was okay the way we were, because right now I could cut off part of the side of you. All I'm seeing is a table to the left of your glasses for me, or to the right.
Yeah,
Maybe it's your right. Is that's your
this
right?
is my
That's your
your
right.
left. Right.
It's always weird. It's like I'm looking
You
at a
change.
mirror of myself, but you're looking at a mirror of yourself.
I'm look, yeah, right. I'm looking at my mirror image. Yeah.
I'm looking in my mirror. You're looking in your mirror. There's always something that weird, like wait, left, right. Because, anyways, whatevs.
Here's the thing. This is the thing about, which is funny. I thought it was very interesting. Also, you
Yeah,
have never seen your face the way someone else has seen your face ever.
yeah.
You
You have.
can't. No, everybody. I
Oh,
mean,
I have not.
everybody in
Okay,
the
I thought you
industry
have not.
has never seen their own face
They
the way
haven't.
someone else sees it.
It's true. No, it's really true.
And here's another. Well, this is a riddle. So,
And
what can you put in? What can you put in your right hand that you can't put in your left hand?
your left hand.
Correct.
Did I get it?
That's correct. You
Ah, I
can't put
got
your
it!
left hand in
Oh,
your
I knew
stand.
that one. I'm glad. I found what is the only thing, but that there's. Oh, sorry, I'm kind of happy now. Um,
Yeah. Your puppy collar crazy. You got it.
wait, look at this. What does it
I'm
look?
doing. Oh no, you're not. You're definitely not.
I wear it sometimes. I wear some clothing like it. I have another one. I think I wore last time. It said Zoo York, like
New York. I don't know if I saw that.
ZOO, not ZOO, but
Yeah, yeah.
ZOO, and then York.
Z York, like Z York.
No, Z. Say it with me.
Z.
Z. Yeah, that's it. After Y, there's Z, right?
Sorry, isn't Z supposed to be the last letter of the alphabet?
Of course.
Yeah, so Z.
No,
So
it's Z. No, sorry. I mean, you're saying it wrong. You say like Z, but you forget the.
Z.
Yeah,
Yeah, Z. Yeah,
you say
I
Z,
know
but
it.
it's like you replace the E by a. You replace
Yeah,
the E by. It's okay. We'll get you saying it the right way.
I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. I know. Don't worry. I'm familiar with the letter Z.
I'm just shitting with you. No, it was the whole Canadian American thing. You know what I mean? But
See, I don't get it.
it's done. Um,
All
but
right.
yeah, like you say, no. So, oh shoot, my nose. I took like two notes. All I have was two notes, but it wasn't in this book right
And
here.
don't tell me
Just
you
hold on. I
lost
have
them.
the Canadian rebuttal to everything American. Hold on, wait a second.
Oh, geez. Here we go. Now this is what. Here's
Oh
where
yeah, here it
liberalism
was.
fails.
Here it is.
Okay, did you
It was
found it
this one.
quick?
Here it is. This is why Canada is better than the States. Wait, are you ready?
I am
Are you
ready.
sitting down? Oh,
Uh, I certainly am.
you better be sitting down for this one. No, it was no, but it was inspired by what we talked about recently. Like you would say something about the Canadian. I'm like, I don't even know what Canadian free speech is. I don't know what our limits are. What are we? What is our take on free speech? Basically,
Okay, right.
today, right? The creation of our Constitution was absolutely ridiculous. We agreed to that last
It's so
time.
verbose.
Oh, it's weird. But what are our rights now? And so I looked into that. You know what I mean? Like, what are our free
Okay,
speech rights? Or what are our comparisons that we could give on basic legal rights or legal limitations, say on corporations versus individuals? On
here
so
we go. Character, I'm listening.
So okay, sorry. Okay, well, you hello, cookie,
It
cookie.
disappeared again.
Hello. Hey, she knows where. But what are our? Well, let's start. Okay, I thought about starting in 2008. The
Okay, that's
economic
fine.
crash, as it was called, the housing crisis, as it was
Yeah,
called in the
right,
United States.
right.
In Canada, do you know what happened?
No,
Well, if the United States is like this, whoa, the Dow Jones cuts in half. Well, Canada is like this. Well, we lost a little bit. Because we had stronger regulations on those kind of financial instruments, which I know in
yeah.
mathematics is just betting on a bet on a bet. Like that's the
Well,
reason why the whole
America
financial
kept the
crisis
panic.
is in the United States. Banks were allowed to create this weird financial system, and Canada didn't suffer from the same thing because it restrained corporations. And the second point, and we could talk about both of them, but I want to make the second point really quickly. The one that I want to make on free speech was Citizens United, 2010.
I heard about
Citizens
them.
United versus FEC. I can't remember what that is. Versus Harper versus Canada, 2004. Those two really speak to free speech of like uh, the individual versus a higher level. And
Like
those two things, I
corporations.
thought those two topics, I was like, wow, I appreciate Canada for these two things. I mean, we're going to go through the other 20 amendments, but there was two things that I thought about. So that's
Yeah,
it. The economic crash in 2008 and free
right.
speech, Citizens United versus Harper v. Canada. Two court rulings that are fairly binding. Yeah.
See, as far as the housing crash is concerned,
Yeah.
we don't have. I don't know if we have any regulations because as soon as they heard that citizens here that there's a crash or the stock market's going down, they tend to pull all their money out of the stock market, making everything 10 times worse. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
what happened.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And completely warped from reality. You
Right.
know what was happening at the time? Like I studied in mathematics, like you know. At the time of 2008, I started school in 2006, and I started a project, and eventually I got data from 1980 through 2006 for a certain commodity. In
Okay.
this case, it's an agricultural commodity because that touched home for me, of something that was fairly free market in Canada. That was the price was allowed to fluctuate with demand, which is not the case for all agricultural commodities. And so I was developing a model to predict the movement of these prices versus, springtime, fall time prices, yield from the year before to follow the price. I developed a really good model. Honestly, it fits superbly. And I had this data from, like I say, 1980 through 2006.
Right.
That's a long data. No. Sorry.
See, yeah, no,
Sorry.
okay.
1986 through 2006. Sorry. I had 20 years of data.
Okay.
But then I extended it on to 2018 because that was where I got to in my studies.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this commodity spiked upwards from
Really?
200 per unit to 600 per unit. And so I had this
Wow.
nice prediction model that followed these three variables. Multivariate models are not easy. I found a nice one. 2007 came along and everyone throwing their money in commodities, even canola. Canola, that's the one that tripled because people
Canola
were
oil.
jumping out of other markets.
Canola.
That ruined my fucking model because I was predicting my whole thing was preventing the risk of a downturn. And so I was predicting, you put your margins at about 30%. And this one went 300%.
Wow. I mean, that
Those
killed
are
your
people
data.
jumping markets. Those aren't farmers. Those are just fucking assholes buying canola futures. You know what I mean? That's
That's
what
the
I'm
thing.
saying.
That's the thing I hate about the stock market. That people are allowed to buy based on futures, and it's
Yeah.
making oil, uh,
Yeah.
like canola and other stuff artificially high. And right now,
This is
we're
the whole
paying.
thing. That was that
Yeah,
2008 crash, was people buying futures on top of futures. On top of
right.
futures. You're making a bet. That's all a futures is. And canola prices. That's what I did. I did the cash price in the springtime versus this futures price at harvest time, which was available in the stock market data. I could look it up. You know what I mean? What is
Yeah.
when the start of the crop starts? What is the price that people are willing to pay right now? They will pay you the money before you even plant the crop. They will pay the money. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right, right.
imagine you pay 100% of your thing. You sell 100% of your crop in the springtime, and then it goes 3 times the price.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm coughing tonight.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I do. No, I do.
It's like, as a
That's just,
farmer, you're trying to reduce your risk.
that's,
But if the price goes up, you
but
actually
if you're a farmer,
lose. You just
now if you're
lost
a
200
farmer,
bucks.
if you're a farmer and you're doing only canola oil, you just made a fortune. But if you're trying to buy canola oil because you're this potato chip manufacturing company
Sure.
who needs canola oil
That's it.
to make their product, you're shit out of luck.
But it's pushed, as you said, by the futures market. The futures market
Yeah,
actually
and that's
pushes,
ridiculous.
because if you're a farmer before you plant and you see the price in the fall that's, favorable, or the price in the futures, I should say, and if they
Yeah,
say in the futures that it's twice what it's worth now, well, you're gonna plant. If the
like the
futures
harvest of
say it's worth half
2021.
what it's worth now, are you gonna plant? Or are you gonna plant something
No,
else, right? And so it's the futures
exactly. So,
leads the actual cash market price, the actual value of the thing. And now you have a futures which was developed on the housing market, which put bets on how many people would go defunct. And already the loan
yeah.
market is a bet on the house itself. So that's already a future on a future. If you look at it like it's, but then they put another layer on top of that. It was like three
And not
layers of
only
betting
that,
on $1. And every institution was allowed to invest $19 for every $1 cash they had. And then they would
well,
invest
yeah,
in something that was 19 to 1, and then they could anyways, sorry. It
so
was
that was the other problem too
wild.
with the
How do
housing
how do you
crunch.
restrain that, though? But it's that betting part of it that's evil, I think. In my
Yeah.
mind. Maybe you.
I'm like, and the other part of the housing crunch too, especially in America, was the subprime mortgage scandal,
Oh,
where they were giving people houses that couldn't afford them,
yeah. Now
and
we
they got
have,
these variable
yeah,
loans. The variable loans, it turned out like you got an initial APR of 2 to 3% maybe, and so it was very favorable for like the first 3 or 4 years.
yeah,
After that, your variable rate shoots. I don't know, something crazy. Let's say 9 to 12%. All of a sudden now, your $800 mortgage becomes a $1,200 mortgage, and you can't pay that anymore. So what are you going to do? They defaulted on their house, saying, okay,
yeah.
we'll go back to renting. The banks didn't care because they said, well, we can always take the house. We'll put it up for auction. We'll make some money
Yep,
back, and then we'll
exactly.
sell it again.
Yep,
So
that's
when they
exactly it.
couldn't absorb any more houses, they couldn't sell anymore. The housing bubble burst, and everything dropped.
But it's this bubble that continues to exist, in that, in my mind, it's that multiplying factor that's the problem. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen to this.
if I
Yeah,
can give $20 to the bank, and the bank has to keep $1 in the vault, and then the bank can then go ahead and invest $19 in something else. That $19 in something else could be bets against the subprime mortgage.
no.
And then in that
Right. That's the
investment,
thing. Is,
then they can go, that investment, those ones that are holding the subprime mortgages, they can multiply that again. As soon as you do that
mhm.
twice, it's 19 to the exponent 2, at least.
So
Then
19
that's
squared.
the number of times that equals one real dollar in the bank.
So yeah, right.
So you
That's
do
that.
two
Yeah,
times. Even if you do 20
right.
times 20, that's 400.
Yeah,
$400 that exist in the virtual market
it's
for
virtual
one
money,
real
right?
dollar that exists in the bank. that hasn't been solved after 2008. That just been propped up a
No.
little bit.
Well, listen, when my parents, my parents got a reverse mortgage in 2006. Okay,
Yeah.
but they assessed my house. I think it was around 280. No, sorry, $350,000. Let's say. I don't know the exact price. When I sold my house 2 years later, over 3 years later,
Oh
the
yeah.
assessed value was 750. Um,
That was you
I
had
don't
to sell
think
your
I
parents'
think
house,
I
right?
think the,
That was it.
the assessed. I know the assessed
Yeah.
value in 2008 was correct. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about the assessed value in 2006. But when they bought the house in 1974, they paid
Oh,
$75,000.
it's just
So by
ridiculous.
the time what? 54. Oh, 54,000. Okay. So by
54
the
is
time 2008 comes around, which is only what 74, 84, 94, 2004, 34 years later, it 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 goes how much? What you're talking about? What five, one,
uh,
two, three, four, 900%?
yeah. Oh, it's a ridiculous. Like, and this is the people. Oh, I have a friend, and I don't do the stock market at all. And I have a friend that went into it, and she's lost a bunch. She went from like 50 to 30 about, and then she's trying to gain back a little bit, going into different risky things. She says, once I get back to even. Anyways, it was like she was ahead at some point, but she stayed in it too long. It's like you could stay in
Yeah.
it until maybe New York now it's like freaking even more. But like you say, those number of years and that number of percent of gain, you walk away and you say, fuck it. I don't even care what the neighbors got if they stayed longer. That was the right time. And you got it in 2008. There was a couple of years of really rough moments there. You wouldn't have had access to that. My brother still owns a place in Scotland. He put a lien on the farm. He actually bought another place in Edmonton, but he put a lien or anyways, there was some financial with the help of the parents, anyways, to help buy this place. But that was before the financial crisis. Then they decided to move back to Alberta. Well, they went by Boston first and then Alberta 2 years later. And that's where
Yeah.
they bought another. But because of the crisis, they couldn't sell their place. It was so underwater, you know what I mean? For a number of years
Oh,
before. And so they just have to rent it because you can't go that far underwater, you know what I mean?
a lot of people had backwards mortgages at the time too.
Oh, it's so bad.
And some of the banks would refinance. A lot of people I knew said, "All right, well, my house. I paid this much for my house. I paid this much plus X% for the value of the house. You're not getting any more money out of me. That's it. The house is paid for. You got your money."
Yeah.
Uh, you think about a mortgage now. A $500,000 mortgage will cost you about $1.2 million over 30 years. So the banks kill you on the
They
interest.
kill you. I saw a calculation for that exact thing. They said an equivalent, like square footage that you rent versus that you own. So here in Montreal, anyways, this condos is like the biggest thing. So people would
Mm-hmm.
buy condos for the same, for a large amount of money, or you could at least equate that to an apartment, a Montreal apartment. Not that you have a backyard and all those such. So to compare the two, depending on where the market was, sometimes it was more interesting to rent, and then the difference between you know basically mortgage payments and rent,
Right.
plus you own your own reparations. Whereas if you're renting, you just call the landlord. Doesn't always work out
Right.
well, but technically speaking, he's got to pay for the big shit.
Right.
You know what I mean though. But
Yeah. No.
there
Yeah.
is
Be prepared.
situations where renting is far more favorable, and they've shown it. Like the difference in money between the rent and the possible mortgage, which is usually greater, if you put that in the bank, and no one does, I don't, fucking I rent, but I don't put, if you put that money in the bank after 25 years, that value of that accumulation of money, the difference between rent and the possible mortgage you would have had, would accumulate to more than the value of the property. And again, it's tough to compare apartment versus house, but apartment versus condo, There's a lot of situations where you're paying way too fucking much for a condo.
There is
You're
no
better off
way.
to rent.
I don't know any bank account I could put in that after 30 years, if I put $100,000 in, I get
Yeah.
$300,000 at the end of it. I don't know any bank account that does that, and
Well,
that is
no,
a
there's calculations. I could do. Fuck, that's what I
that's
studied.
a,
Damn it. I probably couldn't do it on paper, but there's ways that you could calculate. Oh, there was a really easy formula where, what the hell was it? Divided by I, 300 divided by I. There was a calculation that you could do really quickly. I've forgotten it now. It's been like 20 years since I studied actuarial science. But there was a quick calculation on you divide by I times T. What the fuck do you divide by? Just divided by I. You could figure out, there was a specific formula. You could figure out approximately when your money would double at a given interest rate.
okay.
And I'm just, it's really stretching me how to. Anyways, there's a quick formula. It's not perfect, but it gives you approximately the time. But exactly that, like after 30 years, if you started investing kind of $1,000 every 6 months or something, which equals after 10 years times 12 months, $120,000 or something.
It's crazy confusing. I know.
But after $120,000 for 10 years, and then you let that go for another 10 years, like, yeah, that money will double. Like, that's the weird thing.
Yes.
Even if you're at like a 6% growth rate, not even a spectacular kind of, you know, big
Let's
investor.
move the average mortgages here now too.
You know
About
what I
six
mean? But if
percent.
you could be on the other side of that, that's why banks love it. That's why for my credit card, I
We'll
remember
make a ton
if
of
you were late
money.
on a payment during a year, your interest rate jumped from, I remember it was like 22% to
Yeah.
28%, just because I missed one payment. You know what I mean?
If you let's say you never miss a payment, you're perfect for 30 years on your mortgage, and you have a 30-year mortgage, fixed APR. Uh, you're paying just interest for the first 12 years,
Yeah.
and you're not even touching the principal.
But imagine you could be on the other side of that, that you never have debt. And I just got finally out of debt for my car, which was a big chain around my neck, I felt. If you don't go into a debt at all and you're a renter, but you're able to see that, okay, well, for the place that I want, it's X difference per month for the mortgage for the place that I want compared to where I'm at now. Put that aside and put
Yeah.
that aside. And don't go into debt, but just build up cash equity, as it were. I mean, it seems like in certain situations, again, there's certain places like New York, maybe you're better to buy now and then it'll double in value after 20 years just because it's downtown Manhattan. I don't know, whatever it is.
Not quite sure if you really want to buy property in New York right now. People,
Well,
people are leaving in
people
droves.
are leaving.
Well,
That's true.
yeah, in
Totally
droves.
sad.
But the thing is, for me, in my mind, I would rather own than rent because I don't want to be subject to the whims of another person's will.
No, but
If
it's
I
not
want
just
to,
another person's will. It's like imagining Detroit, in the 60s compared to the 90s, the population cut in half, right?
yeah.
Because things left. Imagine New York now. The people in Detroit who were back in the 70s who were renting were a lot better off than those that got a 25-year mortgage. You know what I mean? And it's the
Oh yeah,
same
because
thing in New
they had
York now.
no
If
answers.
you,
Yeah.
again, it's the forecast game, which I sucked at apparently. But if you if you
Well,
forecast a
no,
downturn,
it wasn't. You
I
didn't
mean,
suck at it.
stay
There
as a
was a
renter.
very, there was a variable you couldn't foresee. It's not sucking at it. You couldn't foresee that variable.
But you are foreseeing some variables. Like you're seeing, if
Now
you
in New
see a
York, I can foresee the variables. Everybody's leaving the place. There's no more businesses. They're all closing down. If you go to Manhattan now, it looks like a ghost town. It's not the way it was when I was growing up. It's a completely different place to live right now.
yeah, I wonder what that's going to become. Like that's the weird thing that's going
It's a
to
ghost town.
it's ghost towns, right? Like downtowns that used to be
And
the
the housing is
most
ridiculous.
highly densely populated places, at least for maybe a year, I don't know. They
And
aren't going
housing
to be
here is
allowed to
crazy
go
expensive.
downtown. Like downtowns are dead. New York, like the ball drop at New Year's Eve.
Nobody's allowed to Times Square. Yeah,
There was like tiny little boxes of two people every 10 meters
yeah,
and more
right.
police and security than there were fest,
Revelers.
party
Yeah.
goers. Yeah.
Uh, Now I looked at the
Wow.
value of the house that I sold in 2008 Today's value, 1.3 million. So from $750,000 to 1.3 million in how many? From 2008 to today. So what?
But that's that like buyers no, but it's still it's
So 14,
foreseeing that that's overvalued. In my mind,
way overvalued
I'm telling
by
you
at least
overvalued because
$400,000.
like
At
it's
least
the
400,000.
inflation mechanism of the economy makes that house or that place, probably not even a whole house in New York, but I mean like that place is worth 1.5 million, 2 million soon enough. Whereas
Right.
the equivalently sized place in, I don't know,
What are you
Bangkok,
doing?
or we're talking about like Mumbai, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
is worth $2,000. And that's that
One.
inflationary mechanism that makes one place that's equivalently covered, equivalently protected. You have water, you have heat, you have gas, you have toilet, you have everything you need for $2,000 in one place and $2 million in another place. It becomes again for me a signal of that inflationary mechanism that's gone awry, and that you're better to have gotten out then than to have waited 5 more years when that same place is not worth 1.3. It's not even worth 750. It's like you would have waited because you thought, oh, 1.3,
Right.
I'm going to wait on. I'm going to wait on. Now it's worth 300,000.
See, but
That's what happens.
the problem is just if I wait for my house to hit 1.3, every other house around it hits 1.3 also. So
Yeah.
it's not just my property. So if I'm making more money, but I also have to spend the same amount on a house if I want to buy again, it doesn't pay. Plus, just I wanted to make the point a couple of points ago is that housing pricing here has not kept up with inflation. Way surpassed it. Way surpassed it.
Yeah.
If it kept up with inflation, dollar for dollar, my $54,000 house would probably be 150,000 now.
Well,
Maybe.
that's. Oh, if you kept up with the dollar. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Right.
Whereas the 58,000 or $50,000 home that you guys had in when? The 60s? The 70s? When
1974.
74 to 750 or something like that you said
Right in
to
2008.
1.3 million. But again, what it's like when you're in hindsight, it's like, ah, shit, I should have kept a hold of it somehow, somewhere, some way. But when is the peak? Like there has to be a ceiling.
There is
Like we have
no.
to agree that it cannot go up to infinity in New York. Montreal too,
No.
people say it's a slow rise, but it's always on the increase. There has to be a plateau in my mind. You know what I mean? And so it's like when to get out before it hits that plateau. And certainly there's going to be ups and downs. I can't not foresee ups and downs.
Well, the first plateau was 2008.
But it's a
It
plateau in New
dropped.
York. Things didn't go down hard. Things went down hard
No,
in
it
other
didn't.
places in the country.
No, it didn't. It was,
Property
New York
values come down a bit, but
was always a desirable place to live.
it's always, yeah. Montreal too. It was still a solid place, solid growth in terms of investment properties, such that now we're at what we call the rent crisis, but we still have the lowest rent in the entire country. But still,
Nothing.
it's gone up a lot. But yeah, just because it's a
Let's see how
solid
it did.
center, like Montreal's not going to fall, New York's not going to fall,
No, stop it.
but
I just dropped
certainly
my
there will
phone.
be some downturn at some point, right?
Give me 1 second. I dropped my phone. Okay, back. Sorry about that.
No,
I'm gonna
but
put this
certainly, you know what I mean? Like, certainly, even New York or Montreal, which have been solid markets, traditionally speaking, in terms of
Yeah.
housing prices, just steady growth upwards. Maybe a plateau, but then a steady growth up. Can you foresee a downturn? You know what I mean? Like, for me, I can foresee that
I can
not
see.
continuing
Well, right
forever.
now, 2021, it might have plateaued. I can see a downturn coming very shortly. Because there's
Yeah,
no more businesses here anymore. They all left.
that's it.
Everything closed down.
And it's, yeah, like the downtown prices, the Manhattan price, the tourism prices, like no one's in Times Square. Well, that property suddenly loses value.
Right.
By market value. That's straight up market pressure. People aren't allowed to go. Well, people don't go.
A house doesn't worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it.
For
So if
sure, for
someone's willing
sure.
to, if no one's willing to pay for the house, it's not worth anything.
Remember what we talked about last time? It was like the government doesn't have the right to take something from you, well, property, person, or value, without
Without
due
proper
compensation.
compensation. Right.
Interesting, right? And we talked about
Yeah.
airspace. Like if they suddenly decide that no, the
You
airport
could,
goes this way or the
yeah.
air traffic goes this way instead of that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you have the rights of the loss of value that they take over your head, under the ground? Anyways, where were we
I don't
going with
think
that?
so.
So we were talking about how
I,
Canada is so much better. No.
I'm thinking about moving, but not to Canada.
Where would you move to if you had to move?
So, strangely enough,
Italy.
a
Seriously.
small step would be Staten Island. It's a
Okay.
suburb of New York City.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's
Okay.
more conservative in the borough. But if I was going to move out of state, me and my brother looking at Florida.
At Florida. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Going somewhere warm. Oh, right.
But it's very humid down there.
It's warm though. I don't know.
It's warm. It's hot. Yeah,
Maybe
it's
you
hot.
like scraping off your car or something. Or maybe, probably New York. You don't get that much snow. You guys get a little bit of
Oh,
snow and like,
here,
oh, there's
32.
snowflakes and stuff. But
No, we only average 32, 3 meters. That's it. We average 3 meters every winter. That's it.
do you want to see the giant igloo that me and my son built?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. Let's see if I can take you for a ride here. Oh my
I mean,
god! Like we had a giant dump of snow.
we only get like 14, 15 centimeters at a time.
Wait, what are you talking about? Metric? You said
Because
centimeters.
I'm converting to metric for you.
Oh, okay, okay. I appreciate. Oh, I appreciate. I'm like, wow. Do you think it's centimeters? That's
No,
crazy.
4 or 5 inches,
We don't even
15,
measure.
20 centimeters.
Oftentimes in Canada, they'll say centimeters, but back home we would talk about how many inches there were, how many inches of rain, how many eighths of quarter. The whole time we had. Anyways,
But there was one time we got a meter and a half of snow at one time, in one snowfall, and that crippled the city.
yeah, that's like a pain in the butt in Montreal. But let's see if we can do this. This is my back door. Okay.
I still see all this snow. Oh my god, it's great! Oh, it's fantastic! I love it.
See, there's always it was really a tunnel. And my son
Yeah, but
decided
that's
to.
so
He said,
cool.
"Do you think I could break it, Papa?" So he starts jumping on the top and stabbing it with a stick, but the snow was just so. Oops.
Yeah, after a while it freezes and you can't break it. That's
It
so
was,
cool.
but it was so sticky. Like the snow, it was just a couple days where we had. Holy shit! Like a foot of snow one day, and then another 6 inches the next day. And so
Wow.
each day I would go out and like this is kind of behind my place.
You're in your backyard, right?
So this is where I park my car.
Oh, you're in your
And
front
then this is
yard.
the kind of it goes back in a little ways like a courtyard where again
Okay.
I build igloos apparently. But then
Well,
yeah, the neighbor on this side he owns a business behind me. And so I don't know, especially these days I'll shovel off his parking spot because I mean, I don't know. He's
where's
been pretty good to me. I sometimes use his parking spot a little bit because it's much more convenient than mine.
is that the backyard you were pointing to?
What's that?
That's your backyard, right? Not your front yard.
Well, that's the door that I mainly come in and out. Oh, we'd go for a tour.
Yeah, why
Oh,
not?
shit, why not? Oh, God, it's going to be a mess. This is my bedroom.
When no magic happens.
Nothing these days. That was a painting I had a girlfriend last year, but it didn't work out. But she was an artist, so she gave me that painting afterwards. Like I said, this is the door we use most often because when you go out the alley and you go one block, that's the school. And all
Okay.
the little like the grocery grocers and the dépanneur, like the corner stores, they're all that way. The pharmacy, everything is that way. So this is the natural door to go out of. The kitchen, a little bit messy. I just have supper dishes out, but
Yeah. Who isn't a mess?
and then there's long hallways. Like this is one of these standard, like, and that's the living room and a dining table.
It's pretty big.
And then like long hallways is like a standard kind of Montreal layout. Oops. I store a bunch of stuff. Oh, this is the games room.
That's your
It's
son's
like
room?
a bookshelf and a bunch of weird
Mm-hmm.
math books that I never can throw out. Lego Village.
I want that. I like
Right?
that.
This is my
That's really
dream. I've
cool.
spent like half my salary on this fucking Lego Village. Like, look at all these Lego boxes. All these things.
Oh, cool. That's a lot of stuff.
Like, there's
Holy
just like
moly.
Lego, and I've started sorting them. Wait, this is the like little men Legos, like the minifigures.
Holy crap. You got a ton.
Oh my god! I'm telling you, I spent my whole thing on that.
I'm going to come over just to play.
Like my, oh, they're such cool ones. That's almost the coolest thing we got. So my son really wanted the Mandalorian Lego this year,
Oh, yeah, I know how
right?
popular that is.
There was like 2 sets you could buy, and one of them was apparently super in demand. And it was the Do you know the series a little bit?
I'm familiar with the series. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, sorry. One of the okay. Well, there's like a of it. It's a Star Wars thing, anyways.
Yeah. I'm a Star Wars geek. Oh, wow.
So he has this spaceship
Very cool.
like this. It was
That
worth
is
like
from the.
150
That's like
Canadian. So like,
the list of. Oh, shit. One of the. Not the Phantom Menace, the one with the whole Star Wars trilogy. The first three. Where we find out how Anakin becomes Darth Vader. I can't remember the name of the movie now. Oh, Revenge of the
sorry,
Sith.
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that was a Phantom Menace. No, that was the second, the first one. The second
Sorry,
one was either Phantom Menace
I kind of
and
broke
Revenge of the
the.
Sith.
I'll have to fix it later.
Attack
I
of the
kind of broke.
Clones.
I broke the Mandalorian ship, but yeah, there was no. But there was several parts of it. Like it was the Boba Fett, and
Yeah.
then in the clones one, the fucking Battle of Clones. What the fuck was that one called? Finally, we figure out that he had a son who was a clone of him, and
Jango Fett, yeah.
that's who the
Jango
Mandalorian
Fett
is.
has his
No,
Jango Fett asked him was
no,
asked
that's
to
not who
make
the
a clone of
No, sorry,
himself,
sorry, sorry.
and his name is Boba Fett. Jango Fett's son is Boba Fett.
Sorry, and Django's Fett's son is Boba Fett.
Right.
Okay, Boba Fett, sorry, plays an appearance, a major appearance. Oh, is that a spoiler? But I mean, they're the same race, obviously. Like, there's this kind of, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you know the general
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't. Sorry, this was the front door too. But so this Lego set was worth 150 Canadian and
Whoa.
maybe 100 American. I don't know.
Probably about that. 120.
But at the same time, I was talking to a friend who gave me some other like little collector's items, and she was talking to me about the value of collector's Lego. And already this Lego, I had found it was sold out on Lego Store online. It was sold out on
Yeah.
Amazon. I went to the store and we were going to choose out something else. And I asked the store manager, I'm like, what about this Lego set? He's like, we get a shipment on Thursday. Call back on Thursday when we open and we'll put you one aside.
Cool.
And so I called back. This was about 2 weeks before Christmas. Went and got it that
Hmm.
day. Picked it up. Like I said, 150 bucks.
Right.
2 days before Christmas, I was following this along because this friend had told me about the collector's Lego. 500 bucks 2 days before Christmas.
Wow. And you didn't sell it? I would have been sure.
I was trying to find it. That was why I was kind of pulling apart the thing, and I kind of broke the windshield. I was looking for the minifigure. This is the last room. It's pretty messy too. This is the kids' room. I don't know. He's got the bed
Yeah.
shelf. Anyways, but the minifigure of Baby Yoda was worth
Where's
like
your son?
$50. $50 just itself. One of the minifigures. I can't even find that goddamn minifigure right now. It's one of the super mini ones.
Holy,
I could show it with you. It's worth $50 if you pull it out of the package and sell it on Amazon right now. Well, at Christmas.
holy moly! Where's your
Just
son
for the
now, by the way?
minifigure, you could keep the whole spaceship and just sell.
Check, where is your son?
Oh fuck! He's got to be somewhere around here. No, he's at his mom's place.
Okay,
Yeah. Anyways, no, that's it. I think I did the whole tour. No, he's
nice
that
one.
exactly. He's over at his mom's place. He'll be back tomorrow.
That's a very nice apartment, though. I like it.
You see the branches in the
Yeah.
wall? There was a? Did I tell you about that? I probably did. Maybe
You just tell me about.
there
No,
was.
you actually didn't
Anyway,
tell me. I don't
there was some
remember.
structure like a temporary wall put right here between this long ass corridor and the kitchen. They'd actually
Yeah.
made this a separate room
Oh,
so
cool.
that
Okay.
you walk out of here. There's a long ass corridor and there was like a like a room right here, but they closed it off.
Right.
So this corridor just kept going and going and going. In the middle, they had a sliding door. But basically, to post this thing up, there was like a lot of holes in the beam here and a lot of holes here. I hadn't really filled them in. I thought like this year I'm gonna just stab a bunch of tree branches in them. And this
It's
and
kind of
the other side of the room is
it's
this.
it's an odd aesthetic, but it works.
More tree,
And it's Christmas.
but there were just holes. There was like they drilled so many holes in the wall and never painted over them. Anyways, I got the place for fairly cheap, so I can't complain too much.
If you don't mind how much you pay.
1,100
Wow! Wow! I'm paying 19 now
for a 2 bedroom, eh?
for a 2 bedroom. And it looks like you've got 3 bedrooms there, right?
3 bedroom and a basement.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't take you down to the basement. Good God, we gotta go to the
oh,
basement.
mother! Ripped
Oh, are you
off.
ready for some nightmares? I'm gonna take you down to the
Oh,
basement.
yeah.
Oh, this is the
Why the
basement of
hell not?
nightmares. This is not a cool basement. Bum bum bum. You didn't see the super skinny door, did you?
I can't fit through that door.
I couldn't fit a dishwasher through this door, or not a dishwasher. My laundromat is downstairs, not my laundromat. Look at this.
Oh, no,
Look at me.
your shoulder to shoulder into the wall. Holy
I have
crap.
to do this. And
Yeah,
wait,
I
we
couldn't.
get
I
to
have to
this
go
point.
sideways down this. I'm
I
going to
gotta
get
do the
taken out.
limo.
You're 6'5", so I wouldn't have to duck.
Oh, but you could live here, no problem. But it's pretty basic.
That doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not finished,
Oh,
obviously,
it's
but it
unfinished. It's
doesn't
just
look
like,
fun.
and I actually cleared a bunch of stuff out of here. It was worse before, but then the laundry machines are there's like this little wood path,
Yeah.
and at the end, that's because that's where the water hookups basically are centralized. So
Okay.
I either have them upstairs in the bathroom, and there's like it doesn't matter, semi-finished room over there, but there's not any lights right now.
So do you live in like an apartment building, or you're renting like a private house?
No, this is like a fairly standard 3-story place in Montreal. Like there's a lot of these places, and they're as thin as you see them here. Like it's like a room plus a corridor, and then there's another one right beside it, a room and a corridor, and it's either a fiveplex or a sixplex. Sometimes the whole bottom place will be a kind of a double apartment. But that's a standard issue Montreal plays because they built them so fast for the workers way back in the day. All built out of these
Mhm.
bricks that were either just taken out of the clay of the neighboring river or somewhere else. Some of them have special colored clay, but it's just bricks and bricks and bricks. So it's just,
Oh,
if you look in front, it's just a sea of bricks, and you just walk down every street, and it's just billions of bricks in this town. Anyways, so it's 3 stories high. Most of them, a lot of them are 3 stories high.
I wouldn't care if I'm paying 1100 above 1100. I wouldn't care.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Some of them are pretty like I can hear my neighbors upstairs.
So can I.
I mean, that's part of the game. It's an old building. I understand it. It wasn't made for. It was made for like working class people at the time, and especially now. Like actually, I appreciate like hearing there's a kid upstairs, and of course they can't go out, but it feels like life. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
of course, sometimes it's like, oh fuck, stop it, kid. He's like, kabump, 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 kabump. I'm like,
Are you
fuck.
sure it's the kid?
Either the kid is jumping up and down, or the parents are having a good time. One or the
That's what
other,
I was
but
saying.
they all have to
Yeah,
stay at
yeah.
home, right? It was like, oh, I shouldn't complain. Either one of them's having fun, or the other two are having fun. I won't complain. It's just COVID times. But
Oh God, but this is going to be a huge COVID population burst in the next couple
I,
of months.
I wonder. I wonder. It'll be fun to see. It'll be statistically fun to see, I should say. They talk about the baby boom or
Yeah,
the boomers, something like this. You could only see that in the statistics, several years afterwards. Like it was sort of like not just a blip, but a steady rise upwards. You know what I mean? Or a
yeah.
solid blip. I don't know. They talk about the boom generation and then the echo generation. The generation that came in the generation that followed the boomers. There was a lot of
Okay.
boomers, so there was an echo of the boom when they reached
Oh, I didn't
peak.
know about that. I only know about the baby boomers.
It was something like baby boom would be what? The end of the war through the 60s, something like that.
Let's see. I'm going to find out now.
Like usually they measure these things about, I don't know, it depends, 10 or 20 years at a time, a generation.
1946 and 1964, the boomers.
Okay. Because that's where my parents are at. They're at the early end of that. They were 50 and 51, my parents. So
My
we're talking
parents
about
were.
kids that could have been, in the 70s and the 80s. There would have been a minor population bump at that point. Just because there was so many people of that age, the 30-year-old prime fertility or something like this. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So when you talk
right,
about
right.
46 to 64, you're talking about 76 to 94, something like this, if you add 30 years to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Did I do that right?
The Echo Boomers. Just that point out, the Echo Boomers was 1981 to 1996.
The Echo Boomers.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Okay, okay. What did I say? 76 to 94. Okay, maybe they well then they're relating like prime fertility to 35 years old for a given woman. Really? 35 years old?
Mhm.
I guess so. I would have put it more at 30 years old. Okay. Well, they give it 81 to 96. That's fine. Let them
That's
do
the
that.
millennials. Okay, I have the whole chart here. The silent generation, the lucky few at night, 28 to 45. Baby boomers, me generation, 46 to 64. Generation X, 65 to
Wait,
80. That's
what?
me.
Am I silent? Shit, I'm
No.
silent. I'm 41.
What were you born?
I'm 41, 79.
So you were Generation X,
What was the silent generation? I thought you said that was them.
1928 to 1945.
Oh, okay. I thought 28 to 45 years
The
old.
year you were
Sorry.
born.
I misunderstood. I was like, wait, am I a silent generation? I'm totally Gen X. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So millennials are 1981 to 1996. Zoomers, Generation Z, 1997 to 2012, and they're calling now the Generation Alpha, 2010s to mid 2020s.
Wow.
So, why would they call them
2010s? Like, who
Alpha?
is
Oh,
2010?
this
Holy Christ. I guess they're 12 years old. They're already, wow.
2010s would be, someone born in 2010 would be 11 years old today, right?
The earliest one, yeah.
You're anybody born in January.
Wow. Oh. What was I saying earlier about being old?
I'm sorry, say
Let's
again?
talk about the Constitution, Sonny. It happened in 1982. That was way before your time. I was already born.
That's interesting.
But it's
There's
true
some
for
of
you and I,
the
1982 as a Constitution, that sounds relatively early.
So the greatest generation, I can see my chest. Okay. The greatest generation, 1901 to 1927, and the lost generation, 1883 to 1900.
What does that mean, the lost generation?
Yeah. Don't know why they call it that, but they call it that.
When was your revolution again? I forgot it.
Which one would
The big one. The Civil War. I mean, sorry,
Civil War?
sorry, not the revolution.
They're
The Civil War. I mean,
only going back to 1883.
1883.
So the
Hmm.
Civil War was what, 1886? That's the lost generation.
Interesting. Is that? Wait, what? I don't know what that means. Anyways, I'm sure there's a meaning for that. The lost generation. Is it? You think it's because of the Civil War?
I have no idea. Well, they're all
That's
dead now. He can't even ask himself.
can't even ask me. It was like I remember I had a girlfriend and her mom was German and a child of the Nazis, basically. She was
Okay.
born in, I don't know, 1960 or something like that, maybe 55, 60, something like this. So she didn't live through that time, but she was an artist and her whole theme was the guilt of the children of the Nazis.
Was she a child of an SS soldier?
I, I don't know. I didn't ask a lot
Was
of
it?
questions. Her dad was
Oh,
a
because
scientist, like apparently a
Hitler,
pretty good mathematician or a physicist.
Hitler had a whole breeding program, from SS soldiers or people he thought were superior genetically were basically bred like dogs and horses.
But
You
her
know.
her blonde, like she would do bleach blonding to her hair, and just ridiculously so. It was
Yeah, that's
so weird,
the
anyways. But anyway, I don't know how to. Well, that's a whole
which is
nother
really
pathway,
weird
anyways. But
because
yeah.
Hitler thought blonde hair and blue eyes was genetically superior than anybody else.
But as a child of, you know what I mean? Like that's that kind of lost
Yeah.
generation. Like if you were born into Civil War or parents that would raise you on, the divisiveness that came up during that time. That's that lost generation. That for a generation afterwards, they couldn't forgive each other or abandon that thing.
Oh God, Cold War. How long did the Cold War last? In 1986?
But that's it. And then after that, like 1900, then we start developing again, or you guys, a kind of a
Yeah,
national pride. When does the lost generation stop? It was 1900 approximately, no?
1900. Yeah.
And then you start getting, what was the next one then?
Oh, 1 second.
Oops, sorry.
Greatest Generation,
Sure.
1901 to 27.
That's the greatest. Yeah, there you go. And that they, kind of confronted different things in a different way.
Well, that's World War One too.
That's
World War
World
One
War
started
One.
in
Yeah, for sure.
1917.
No, that's interesting. And they did. When did U.S. I'm trying to remember the history thing. Like again, as we
When,
talked last time, Canada entered the First World War as soon as England entered. We were obliged as a kind of a part of
yeah,
the empire. But when in World War One, at least, U.S. they jump in
we jumped in World War One pretty early.
pretty early
World
though.
War Two we went in late.
You waited until you were attacked. That's it.
Right, Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I don't. I just don't have a memory of it. Again, we're taught, I guess, Canadian history,
Well,
anyways.
the history's confusing. I've watched some of this on the History Channel too, which is it's kind of interesting to me how it
Yeah,
all started.
how it all started. Yeah, that was good.
All right, I
Okay,
think
so at least we can agree that Canada is far superior.
I didn't say that. We just said stock market, baby. You guys are superior
Stock
because
market.
you
We
don't
did
have
it.
to.
One of
You
those things. It was one of
know,
those regulations that was, I think, and again, I think it was a pretty good regulation to just limit that kind of futures betting. Like if you let it
that should
wide
be
open so you can
that should be
bet on a
worldwide.
bet on a bet. Oh my god, that's
That's why oil is so high right now. I'm
and
paying $2.35 a gallon regular gas now.
yeah, that's it. That's that futures market. Again, futures was the thing that it's this kind of, in my mind, a phony multiplier of money. That's what a
Well,
futures
Barack
market
Obama was
is.
president. And Barack Obama was president. The futures market was terrible. We were paying $5 a gallon for oil, for gasoline rather. That, a barrel of oil, I think, was close to $180 a gallon.
Well, no, but the things that
$180
led
a
into
barrel,
the
sorry.
economic crisis, he did try to put in certain regulations on the financial industry based on what happened. Like, again, to even come close to what Canada was doing in terms of, what, don't let people control the future market of the real market using the futures market. And so Obama
Right.
tried to rein that in a bit, but failed in my estimation. Like
Oh,
again, if you
without a
just
doubt.
look at the Canadian example, it was one of those examples of how the regulation on that particular market, not on every market, but on that particular market, was very, very advantageous to not, again, have this bubble, that this non-existent financial bubble that is just imaginary. And as soon as people realize it, like, holy fuck, I have no money. And the banks realize that, oh shit, we have no money. And then the creditors realize that, oh fuck, we have no money. And it just
Yeah.
cascades from there. It was because of each level of that was betting on a bet. And that's that futures market spiral that makes things terrible. Anyways, again, one example of how there's a free market. I love it. The futures market, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan.
Neither am I.
That's all. Yeah, I think we're agreed. But not that. And again, the U.S. seems to float along. It's not as though their solution was a failure as of yet. Again, I foresee something, but I'm not right so far. They seem to be like
Well,
since
let's,
2008, it's climbed back up from like the depth of the
oh,
Nasdaq
we're at
was,
30,
or
Dow Jones today.
it
Do you have
was.
any
What
idea?
was the low? The low, it went down to like what, 8,000 in
It was
2009, or
8,000. 8,000. I
10,000?
think it was 8,000 during the crash.
8,000, eh?
So now today's 30,930.
That's it. So I mean, hey, I'll poo poo from my bleachers all day long. But again, that crash from 8,000 from what though? It was from like
12,000.
16, 12.
It was at 16. I think it was 12. Maybe 16. I'm going to hedge my bets and say 12.
12. I thought it cut in half. But yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Like
So,
kind
I
of
mean,
2007, 2006.
it's 4,000 point drop doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot.
Percentage wise, it's a lot. It's like if you're
Yeah.
multiplying by 4 now, a 4,000 drop is like a 16,000 drop now.
25%.
Because if we went from 8 to, well, say 32,
Yeah, that
we're,
was 25%, right? So they're going now 30,000 to 8. Forget about it.
yeah. Oh, it would hurt so
And
bad.
a lot of people said the stock market would never come back. And look, thank you, Donald Trump. The stock market is doing very, very well. Now, okay, now I got a question for you. Speaking about futures, Biden is going to be inaugurated president tomorrow. Nothing is going to stop that now. So, do you think that the stock market will do better, worse, or stay the same? Now, staying the same, I'm talking about plus or minus 10%, which isn't much of a drop right now, considering where we are. I would,
Mm.
if we were at 10,000, I would say plus or minus 3%. That's a much bigger. Well, that's about the same fluctuation as what we would have right now at 5%. Okay, so let's say plus or minus 5%. What do you think would happen?
Like honestly, I think it's on a certain trajectory. Like they talked about this big dip, and perhaps the United States was behind other nations in terms of their dip. Like Europe, they had a dip in GDP, for example, like really
Right.
harshly, the first or the second and third quarter of 2019 or 2020. And then the US, it lagged a bit behind, but then it took a stronger dip percentage wise. Like it lost a bigger percentage of GDP than Europe did. Like both of them lost a lot for sure. But then both started coming back. And in the last quarter or so, the US is coming back. So what I foresee is that, again, in quarter two, the US will come back more. Like
I just think
but you asked how the business community might react to Biden. In general, I think, and what I've seen is
they
that
reacted to
they
Biden when it
react
was.
negatively to change. So if you change from one administration to another, there's a negative impact on that. Like businesses in general, and naturally so, don't like change in regulation. They don't like change in taxation. They don't like those kind of changes. That means they have to freaking reorganize a whole bunch of shit. So I would foresee generally, like imagining that it's level,
Well, that's
I
why I
would
gave you five
imagine
percent.
a slight down dip
Well, that's why I
following.
gave you
But
5%.
because it's not
5%
level,
being.
I see it going like this. Maybe it'll go like this. I don't foresee it going down. Maybe you do. Sorry, that's a
I
long
don't see
answer.
it going down now. I see that if regulations change dramatically, like they reinstate Obamacare, they reinstate um, the employee mandate, they reinstate the individual mandate. Um, they put in a whole bunch of regulations back that Trump cut. I think that it's going to go down again, and significant.
Okay.
Give it
Well,
2 years.
and that's fine.
Two
We
years.
put this down like now. We'd like put it down as our predictions and see what happens. Like I say,
See what
I
happens.
see, and just not even 2 years, but give it 6 months. What do you think in 6 months? Is it gonna,
But 6 months I
or
say
is it
about
gonna
the
still
same,
do one
but
of these
it
things, and
takes.
then 2 years it does this, or what is
I,
your?
the reason why I say 2 years is because it takes a while to make these changes. Unless he puts them in through executive order or canceling Trump's executive orders, which is basically overnight. It's going to take a while for these things to one to cut and two to install again. You know.
I think I foresee like executive orders being the tool of the future in the United States. Like from the time of Clinton to Bush to Obama and Trump, that's the tool of the president. Like they use that 10 times more than any previous president ever used it. You know what I mean? And so
But
for sure,
remember,
yeah, for sure, I expect executive orders left, right, and center. And if they have tentative control on the Senate, probably it's going to take some time to get a Kamala Harris replacement, or there's going to take a little
well,
bit of time to fill it up before
two
the
things.
Democrat
Before you
might have control
two things. An executive order is based on an existing law.
based on an existing law.
Okay, so if there is a law saying that you can't eat apples on Tuesdays and the law is not enforced, if he signs an executive order saying enforce this law on Tuesdays, you can't eat apples on Tuesdays. So that's the thing. So
Okay,
considering that, so nothing he can't do anything illegal. He can't create a law through executive order. He
yeah,
can only enforce what's already there or cut what's already there,
fair enough.
like
Yeah,
not
fair enough.
enforce certain laws.
Okay, yeah, no, and that's fair enough. That's well, I don't know about that. Um, what can the prime minister do? Like the prime minister just doesn't have those kind of powers. I remember hearing about Bill Clinton pardoning his brother for a cocaine violation and
I
thinking
heard
like,
about that.
holy crap! Like if a prime minister ever did that, that's just not never. It just never happened that on the last day you can just pardon all your friends. You know what I mean? Pardon your brother for cocaine violation. Wow, what does nepotism mean? I don't know.
Right?
But on the other side, there was apparently, I think, one of the biggest pardons. Maybe we talked about this before. Who was it? Lincoln, or probably the one after him, pardoned all the Confederate soldiers, basically. Just said,
Oh,
whatever happened in the Confederate soldiers, you're pardoned. You know what I mean?
Jimmy Carter did a similar thing. He pardoned everybody who dodged the draft
Yes, he
in
did. Yeah.
Vietnam. So there was there's a lot more people.
A lot of people at the same time, yeah. But just that the Civil War, I mean, that's pretty big. And it's a pretty bold gesture to kind of make peace, you know what I mean? Like you won't be
Mm-hmm.
hunted and killed. You can go about living your life. It's just that, there was one victor and one not victor. I don't know.
Well, as a victor in any kind of war, who the hell wants war?
It was the
But
most
that's not.
deadly war in the state's history, I've heard.
Yeah.
Like more than the world wars, lost more people fighting against one another, more land, more riches lost that
Hopefully,
way than any other.
hopefully, hopefully it won't happen this time. So we pray. We're praying for Biden, for Nancy Pelosi, and for Chuck Schumer to be good leaders. Not to, but we want them to change. We want them to come to the conservative side and not
Well, just at
be
least
so.
follow the Constitution. Like you say, at least follow the
Yes.
letter of that law. And if not, it can be challenged. Like to know that there are levels
If,
to
if
this
you
process
break
of
any
law.
part of the Constitution, he would be considered an enemy of the state.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to uphold it, not break.
Yeah. No, and that's what they're charging him with too, right? Like that's the. Anyways, being an enemy of the state, working against democracy, anyone who would take part in the riots, that they were actively looking to
Oh,
to to interrupt the democratic process
yeah.
on January 6th. You know what I mean? Like
That was all
that's
Antifa, by the way. That was all Antifa.
it's hard to it's hard to see that from my point of view.
I know, but they arrested a couple of people who were in charge of the
That's
riots,
fine,
and
but
they
it
were
would be like
Antifa.
trying to convince me that it was all the Proud Boys that did the Black Lives Matter riots. That would be about the
And that
same
was,
level of this is what you have to convince me of. That's all I'm saying.
but they
They could arrest a couple
Antifa.
guys. I totally believe you. They could arrest a couple guys. Yeah.
Antifa's been trying to give us conservatives a bad name to saying we're violent, but they're the ones who start all the protests, burning all the buildings, cars,
But do you hear what I'm
businesses.
saying though?
Now, I hear what you're saying. No,
Like what
I
how would you
haven't.
respond to what I said though?
What the Proud Boys?
Yeah. What if I said to you the Proud
I
Boys
would
caused
absolutely,
Black Lives Matter riots? What if I said
I
that to
would
you?
absolutely not believe that. Absolutely not believe it.
Okay.
I know where you're going with it. No, no.
I'm just
Sorry I
saying,
didn't
like,
answer
I
your
can
question.
believe
No,
that
I'm
a
sorry I
couple
didn't answer
people got
directly.
arrested as trying to be instigators in the crowd. But when you see a crowd of 10,000 people rallied around Donald Trump, and then 1,000 of them go to, as they said, like, let's go march down on the Capitol and just tell them what we're for, and, and like 500 of them go into the building, I just can't believe that that's all Antifa. Or that
I
that's
can't
even
believe you.
majority
No, I
Antifa. I
don't
can believe
believe
that one or
that.
two Antifa people got arrested though, but I just cannot believe that. I'm sorry. I don't think they would be so worked up as to break such a law just to try and make the other side look bad. I think that's a lot of people that were worked up, willing to go to that extreme because they were that angry that their democratic values were being stolen. And I don't think that someone could fake that so much as to risk so much. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
But a couple people,
I
yeah,
agree
I'm
with you.
sure there's a
Well,
couple
I
of
agree
fucking
with
whack
you.
jobs
For the
for
most
sure.
part, I agree with you. They are whack jobs. They should. That should never ever have happened.
The
Ever.
whole thing,
That
yeah,
was.
yeah, exactly. We agreed on that last time. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Okay. I think I'm gonna go to bed now. So it's getting kind of late.
Okay. Next time, Citizens
So,
United. It's free speech. It was this beautiful free speech thing I had.
I can't wait.
We'll see it next time.
All right.
Saturday maybe, or Friday or Saturday, anyways.
Friday or Saturday. Actually, my brother's off Friday and Saturday, so we can do both things.
One of the two. Okay, I've got my kid, but later in the evening, I'm sure we could get a time
Okay.
working out. Okay, no problem. All
Okay,
right.
great.
Have a good night.
Have a good night,
Thanks.
Fraser. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.